Here. I make a motion to accept it.
Second.
I guess we'll start there. What we didn't do last meeting was introduce the new commissioners. If each one of you would just state your name or just, something real simple about yourself. And public comments. Any members of the audience that would like to address the commission? Oh, boy.
More people to attend and hopefully add something to the discussions. Couple of quick things. We all know, I don't know if you guys actually sent a letter about did you, on the petition for the prohibition of hunting on Lake Earl. Anyway, that turned out as we expected. The commission rejected the proposal. The department actually was in favor. Their recommendation was for it to be rejected. The county supervisor sent a real nice letter of opposition. The Del Norte waterfowlers, the group I'm a part of, sent one in as well. And I called into the meeting and gave them the short version of our letter, and it was almost a no-brainer. Fortunately, Mark Kennelly from CWA, California Waterfowl Association, he also spoke and recommended they reject the closure proposal. And Bill Gaines, who's a registered wildlife conservation consultant, I guess down in the Bay Area or further south, he also spoke at the commission meeting. And there was no one there in favor of the petition, not even the petitioner. So it was a pretty short and sweet conversation we all had with them. But it was nice that we were able to reintroduce our Del Norte waterfowlers to the commissioners, because we're going to go back and talk to them more seriously in the future. A couple of quick suggestions, if I can just throw a few things out there. Perhaps y'all might think about asking Sean Freeze to either come to a twice a year meeting here, or at least call in. I think, I don't want to speak for y'all, but there's enough issues in this county where twice a year I don't think is asking too much for somebody from Fish and Wildlife to actually speak on the record about things and answer some public questions and some questions from y'all. Just throw that out there for you to think about. And the last thing is, I was out at Lake Tolowa this afternoon, and the county showed up with their cat and a couple of folks, and we're starting to unload when I left, and I'm just assuming it was late in the day in my mind, but they probably started breaching, or else they're going to breach early in the morning. And as you all know, it takes a couple days for the lake to drain, and then it'll be a big mud bog for 1 to 14 months, depending on a lot of things we don't have any control over. And that's pretty much everything I have. And again, it's nice to see the new folks, and hopefully there'll be some good meetings in the future. Thanks.
Hey, Jeff, did the lake actually get to 10 feet?
It got to 9.7 last time I looked.
Yeah.
Close enough.
Pretty high. You didn't have to launch your boat there at Ellenville.
Off the doorstep. Is this the time where I ask about our committee looking into a couple of things?
Be better to do during commissioner report, probably.
Okay.
Are there any status reports? How about anything for public lands, starting with federal lands? State lands? Private lands? Any news on the elk stakeholder group? I think Mike Koopman filled us in on the Klamath Chinook listing process. I think he mentioned that there was something in the works where there was going to be an attempt to delist, but that's all I remember. I don't want to speak for him. And as far as the Didson, J-Tuck might be able to add something, but I know it's been going in their monitoring. I haven't gotten the latest numbers.
I did talk to staff that was running it today. They did say about on an average about 40 steelhead are going by. They haven't checked it for Sunday or today, but I think he said on the 6th they had about 100 go by. The numbers are lower than they were last year. And then from reports that I heard on the river, it's been pretty slow start. So that's all I have. They're trickling in, but not at the numbers that we were last year. So hopefully they'll pick up, mid to late January into February.
Any news on Lake Earl hunting closures?
I have a question. When are they going to close, when are they planning on closing it? Do you have any timeline for that?
I don't know if it was
Wait-
in the
wait a
notes
minute,
with the
what-
two gentlemen behind us.
When are they planning on closing it, or it's got to go, how long is it going to take before they close it, if they do?
Are you talking about the intermittent
Lake Earl.
closures this year?
No, I'm talking about duck hunting out there.
Well, duck, on the south end of Tolowa, it was closed on January 2nd and stays closed until the 24th. The signage that was out there on the water was removed a month and a half ago because our group requested that they not have a closed to hunting sign up when it was actually open. But there's signage on the road saying it's closed until the 24th and then it opens back in. But that's only on the south end of Tolowa.
Are you talking about the whole hunting?
Do they, are we going to ban hunting out there? Is that-
No, that's what he was just talking about.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Yeah,
All right, I have me worried.
yeah. They checked it and nobody even supported
Me
it.
and Dominic used to be out there in the worst weather.
I
So
know.
far, since the first including the first 18 days of it, the closure, and the second to now, there have been 6 days where they actually worked. And they worked about 3 hours on each of those days. So they dispermitted hunting so that they could have 6 days of semi-work. Probably not too angry about that.
I'm assuming the Del Norte waterfowlers are going to petition again to eliminate that another year, or at a minimum, maybe from 11 a.m. to 3 p.m. or 10 a.m. to 2 p.m. a closure, because you may or may not be hunting in the middle of the day. Maybe you are, maybe you're not, but certainly morning and evening is better, probably.
Well, when they closed it last year during the hunting season, I had that discussion with Sean Freeze, and they couldn't figure out a way to communicate to the public intermittent closures over the course of a week, a month, and 3 months. And I just said, put the information on the telephone number for the wildlife area for the public to hear, or put it online, and it was too darn confusing to them to try something like that. So yes, to answer your first question, we're going to petition the Fish and Game Commission to tell them there should be no closures. They worked 13 days last year total out of 32. This year they've worked 6 out of 24. And I'm personally disgusted that I can't go hunting because they won't go out in the wind and the rain and all the nonsense that we exist in this county. But I don't want soapbox tonight. But yes, we're on it and we're going to stay on it because we're pretty pissed off.
They have an easy way for intermittent closures because they have an intermittent closure system for opening and closing the river when the flows are low.
My only concern about petitioning them is we did this last year, and the response was to quadruple the area of closure. It sounds a little smack you kind of thing. I don't, the state has not been a very good neighbor here.
I would like to bring up a couple points. All these little things that our commission is working on, they're kind of like little sidebar issues of the overall management plan. And there's 2 things that I'd like to see our commission look into, and I think it's an opportune time. I mentioned a couple of times that the Lake Earl Land Management Plan is up for review, and it's been outdated here for several years, between 5 and 10 years. And I would like to have our commission ask the county if they would write a letter to them and ask to be an active partner in the planning, because I've been told 2 or 3 times by California Fish and Wildlife folks that the management plan has passed 2 levels, whatever that means, internally. And as far as I know, I contacted Jerry Hemmingson. The county, per se, hasn't had any input on it whatsoever. And what will happen is they will put it out, and then they'll take our comments. And I think I mentioned here once before, they'll say comment noted and move on. And we need to be a part of it. And what goes into this is also the California State Park. They do not have a management plan. And since 1970, when they took over out there at the Pacific Shores area, and then, I don't know, it's been 10 years, 12, I don't know, Jeff, maybe you know, where they changed it to the Tallawah Dune State Park. And as a reminder to everyone here, our County Board of Supervisors never even knew that that was happening. That took place in Humboldt County. Sue Calla, Lauren Bommelin, and Sandra Jerevic were the only 3 people from Del Norte County that went to that. It came out in the triplicate the next day that Tallawah Dunes had been christened the newest California State Park. Our county has never had an active part of that. And the California State Parks say that they don't have the money to do a plan. Well, I mean, we're over 30, 40 years now, and I think it's time for our county to step up, because it's going to involve all the endangered species, all the hunting, all the public access, everything out there. And unless we get our county to request that they be a part of it, I think we're just going to be left out. So I would like to see this commission make that request from our county board. Hello.
That's what I was just contemplating. So we got 3 things here that got recommended. Lake Earl, requesting Lake Earl management plan.
Land management plan,
Land management plan. So do we want both, the letter to include both the Lake Earl land management plan and then the California State
Yeah,
Parks?
the Lake Earl Land Management Plan is being put together by the California Department of Fish and Wildlife. And then the state parks does their own thing. But under the California Department of Resources, who is over both of those agencies, perhaps a letter to them addressing both the California State Parks and the California Department of Fish and Wildlife would be appropriate to the California Resource Board. And I forgot who the guy is that's the head of it now. I've sent many letters to them back about 10 years ago asking them, for example, who is responsible for the animals on state park lands. And their attorneys called and said they were embarrassed to say that they didn't know. And I think that that is something that we need to try and find out. Who's responsible for what? And if we don't do that, then the gates are going to go up and it's going to be too late.
You're speaking of the California Natural Resources Agency, right?
Yes.
So I think who you want to speak to is Wade Crowfoot.
Who is it now, Jetta?
Wade Crowfoot.
Okay.
And then he's the head of the...
Yeah,
I can't remember his title. It's either executive director or
yes.
something along
Yeah.
those lines.
And they explained the whole kind of structure of how it was. So I think a letter to them and then an individual letter to the California Department of Fish and Wildlife and an individual letter to the California State Parks. Because I do know that they've been doing some surveying here because up until now, and I don't know if they've completed anything, they didn't know what was state park land and what was California Fish and Wildlife. And their management plans are different for all of that.
But then the other clarification was, we recommend or draft, it's back to that thing, do it separately as our Fish and Game Commission or as the County Board of Supervisors? Do it because they would be the ones involved in that,
Right.
right?
No, but ask our County Board of Supervisors to address those three entities, I think would be the way that we would want to do that. And I know before, when they were developing like the Lake Earl Land Management Plan, we asked for updates, rough drafts, all of this, and this is in years past, and we didn't get those. But I don't know if the county, we asked as individuals, but I don't know if perhaps the county could get that to see what the status is, where they are. And then I think we need to ask the California State Parks, because this goose situation that we all been talking about is not going to go away, regardless of what they do down there with the hunting. And for example, out there at the end of Palo Road, we talked about that last time. I can't remember. I want to say it's maybe 500 acres. So that's just a wild guess. When Alexander's had that and irrigated and everything, that was all used for the Aleutian geese. And so it is going to be important because the California State Parks took that away. And so maybe now, being as the California State Parks doesn't have a land management plan and the Fish and Wildlife is, now might be the opportune time to jump in.
Can I add something to Helen just said? I haven't personally seen this draft management plan, but my understanding is it talks almost not at all about public recreation.
Mm-hmm.
It has a minimal recognition, if any, of grazing, invasive species management, which is a huge issue, as we've seen in the state park, which he was just talking about. And this year, we've seen an explosion of canary grass out on Lake Tolowa in particular.
Yeah.
And it's been exploding on Lake Earl for decades.
Yes.
And to me, that's the kind of thing that we need to ensure that they understand that we're concerned involved in some review of the draft management plan, and we were told basically we weren't important enough. And my hope would be that the
That's
county,
right. That's right. Yep.
should speak up and say, we do the breaching, we all live here, we have to deal with it, so the county should be a part of that. And also on Helen's point, I was on a call with Jerry Hemmingson, State Parks, Fish and Wildlife, County Roads, the Fort Dick Fire Department, and CAL FIRE regarding road access out at Pacific Shores. And the State Parks and Fish and Wildlife said, we can't do anything because we don't have a plan. And I'm going, and we're all
Okay.
suffering because you don't have a damn plan. And how many, I asked Sean Freeze,
Yep.
it's been 4 decades. I'll be really old and dead by the time they come out with one. So I just urge you to pursue the county. We got, what, 2 new supervisors? 3, whatever. You know, it's an opportunity to say, stand up for us. And we shouldn't even have to ask. We should just demand that we're a part of that draft process. Because by the time, as we know, with all the stuff Caltrans brings here, by the time they bring it here, it's already decided. We're just picking from A and B, and they're either not very much different, or one's so far out there it doesn't matter. Anyway, enough soapboxing.
And another thing, if, going along with what he said, if the county has, well, they absolutely have to get involved in the land management, because right now, our county is operating under an emergency permit only to breach the lake. And before, back 4 or 5 years ago, they had a 10-year permit. And I talked to Richard Mello the other day, and now it has to be across a county road, and they are told that the Pacific Shores roads no longer count as county roads. So that would bring us back over to Kellogg, and we were talking here, it finally came across the road on Sunday, so that's probably why they're out there. The other concern, Richard Mello said, is that the county no longer has a D8 cat, which is good from the point of view that it's lighter, but it's also more dangerous, and quite frankly, we don't know what the next storm is going to bring. Maybe they got out there today to finally be able to do it. But I don't know how many of you have attended breachings, but I've attended them a lot over the years. And you actually have waves going over the top of the cat. And there's a considerable difference between the D8 and D6, but we don't have that anymore. And so it also becomes a danger, a safety issue for whoever's running the cat out there.
Just for the record, Wade Crowfoot is the secretary for the Natural Resources Agency.
Isn't that what you just said?
Yeah, just to
Yeah.
get his title right in the notes. And then he'll be the head dude to, and oversees the other 2 agencies that you're talking about.
Yeah.
He's the main man.
But I think we need to contact all 3 agencies.
Yeah.
So it sounds like, Helen, you're looking for actually 4 letters, 1 each to the 3 individual agencies, and 1 to the Board of Supervisors to also request that
Yeah.
they are part.
Or we can do it, I think we could, that would be great if we did it directly ourselves, but also a letter to the Board of Supervisors asking them to do the same thing. Maybe they'll feel more comfortable about it if we do it first. I don't know. I don't know what their feelings are. I haven't talked to anybody.
I don't actually at the moment know the exact protocol for that as to whether or not they want us to talk with them and they make the request,
think
or they
that-
don't care whether we actually.
I think that is what we're supposed to do. That was my understanding from before, that we write our wishes to the county. They put it on the agenda, and they write the letters. Now, us as individuals out here with the waterfowl, the Grange, and Farm Bureau, whatever, we can write our own.
So I'll make a motion that the commission drafts a letter and sends it to the Board of Supervisors requesting that the Fish and Wildlife Management Plan to be done, the State Parks Management Plan to be done, and the California Department of Resources request that it's done, and see what happens.
And maybe add to that, that the county be an active participant in both of
Right.
those plans.
And the county is requiring the state to include us in their negotiations for
Right.
what goes on. We don't want to get left out,
Right.
so that they don't generate a plan as they've generated a plan at the lake for hunting and
Right.
pay no attention whatsoever to the local input.
That's right.
Because as we know, at the meeting in Smith River, they had their deal done before they ever came there. All they were doing is, because they got caught not following protocol, all that was protocol. That had nothing to do with receiving any information and altering their viewpoint.
I think that sounds good.
So what if they say, yes, you guys can have input on this management plan? So what do you pick a couple of you guys to go and represent the county? How does it work?
Well, there's, from past experience, not from this, but it's been a multitude of ways. They've held public meetings here in town, which some of them were very good, others were horrible. They have made presentations to the Board of Supervisors. The supervisors has taken input from the public. Public has written letters. Once we get them committed to say that our community in some fashion, especially with the county, can be part of the planning process, then we can go from there. But there's been a whole bunch of different ways.
Okay, the reason I asked is I found when you're trying to make a change in something, a consistent faces showing up for each of the meetings is very important. That's a commitment.
Yeah, and then it's important that support groups, say like the waterfowl people, are at the board meetings or at these meetings, if they call them, because there's nothing like the local experts. The people that's conducting the meeting, they may not know what our local needs are. Or they may know and not want them to happen. So we have to have people there advocating for our position.
And that consistent face, just to add to what you're saying, should be our Board of Supervisors, because we are just an
Advisors.
advisory committee to them.
That's correct.
So they need to take more of an active role in this.
So in other words, lobbying the specific supervisors is going to be very important.
Yes. And I'm glad to see, I've been on this committee, I'm sorry I was late, but I'm glad to see that there's a full room of commissioners. I haven't seen this many people here in a long time.
That's class, but I can't use my left hand.
Let that be a lesson to you, J-Tuck.
So then there's still the issue, I don't think I have, so I'll switch, but I could write the letter to Sean Freeze, but I don't think I got enough background. It would be, the 3 letters could pretty much all be the same and just addressed.
But the county should be the one writing them.
Oh, okay.
We're going to write
So
one.
that's what I mean, who's gonna, it should not be me, because, I don't even know what's going on.
Oh, you mean
Who wants
to write
draft
the, you
our-
mean to write the
to-
letter to the county?
Yeah,
And I think there's a motion on the floor too.
I'll second it. I can't.
Yeah.
Jimmy.
Oh, yeah, this is, second by Justin. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Those opposed?
So we're gonna write a letter to the Board of Supervisors requesting they ask to be included in the management plan discussions, and that Donner County does not want to be left out. We need to know, and we need, because this is our county, it's not their county.
Right.
We need to know what they're doing, what they want to do. We need to be able to have input, and actually, hopefully, that they take some input from the county, because we know that they kind of don't pay much attention.
And going back to what you said, maybe if all of our commissioners could write down 2, 3, a dozen things that they think that is happening as a result of us not being involved in the plan, and then maybe send them to Jackie, and then include those in just a kind of form letter request. Because we might not all think of the same thing.
That's what I was thinking. It's not like I haven't done drafts and then had it added. My point is, I'll make a pretty terrible draft, but I can start a draft and then we'll circulate it
Yeah.
and then add to it.
I also think that one thing that could be really important would be every commissioner signs a letter, not just the president of the group.
That's true.
Every commissioner signs the letter, because then you've got X number of actual Donner County residents, including in the group, every commissioner, because I don't know that we've ever sent a letter where every commissioner signs a letter. I think that
So
would be
can we
important.
do that now to agree? I'll go around and say if we want our name, each individual now, to save you time, to put on the letter?
Need the letter, and then you guys need to approve the letter.
Yeah.
And then I can email it to you, and you guys can.
But like, he's talking about listing our individual names.
Yeah, I can have that down at
Yeah.
the bottom, not a problem.
Can I add one more thing? It would be important that they understand the county's position wants to be included before the draft plan is released to the public, because that's their excuse.
That's an excellent point.
It's going to be released to the public, and then you'll get 90 days to comment, and
Yeah.
it'll all get ignored, you know. So it's important that you make that distinction in the request of when the county wants to be involved. And certainly, it's a complicated issue, and they've got different sections of the department working on it. And they blamed me last year for one delay, because I was raising issues with them that they didn't want to discuss, and they got pushed back another year. And I just asked 2 simple questions about hunting, you know, and anyway, it's the state process, and we ought to be able to use it to our advantage.
That should be in bold print. Underlined, exclamation.
One more, almost last thing, is some suggestion of some bullet points of the concern. They don't have to be positive or negative, but they can include, we're concerned about grazing, invasive species, public recreation, just a list of common things that happen out there that need to be explored in some detail in the management plan. Because right now, my understanding is it's all about habitat management in a big picture view, which doesn't necessarily cover public recreation at all, for example, or the water level management. Our group's going to request specifically that the water level management gets reviewed and studied. So there's some biological reason why the level is set at 4 feet, 6 feet, 8 feet, or 10. There has to be a scientific basis for that rationale, not just we're going to protect butterfly A or
There isn't any.
that doesn't cut it in this world.
That wording out there.
I remember.
It's all overgrown now. It's all sawgrass.
Oh, it's terrible.
Yeah, you can't get through it.
So I guess there should be a motion to write a letter, or I guess it could just be an email to invite Sean Freeze to come up here, or even Zoom twice a year.
I can just request that he attend whichever meetings you guys want him to attend?
Sure.
He usually does. So if there's specific ones, or if there's certain months or something you want him to attend, I just need to make sure to give him a month beforehand, so, yeah, he'll usually try and make time.
So with that, do we have a preference anytime soon, like with the elk stakeholders? You know, because it's true, I guess I'd imagine he's got it'd be better if he kind of had an idea of what we wanted to discuss.
Which thing are you talking about now? I lost you a little. Attending our, we could draw out of a hat when he gets here. I mean, because there's a whole bunch of things. Just say TBA. It'll be one of the following. I mean, he should know.
He's gonna wanna know a legal bit.
I know.
Should we set it, how about, what about at a specific month, like April and October or something like that?
Do you want to do it before they put out the change in fishery stuff? Like the usual, because every year there's new fishery proposals. So if we do it the month before they put out the fishery proposals,
Sure,
whatever month that is,
yeah,
just an idea.
yeah, right, that would make sense for one of them, for sure.
What time of year is that?
Yeah.
Spring?
March is sounding,
Well, that was, you didn't ask me, but my suggestion would be March and September.
sure,
One is just based on.
Let's do
spring and
March.
fall. But, you know, who knows what his schedule can accommodate as well. But it gives a chance to divide the issues, so you're not getting in with 18 things at once, in theory.
True enough. We should also invite the head of the California State Parks, too. I don't know who that is right now.
F.G.A.C, the local superintendent.
Yeah, I think we need to go higher than her, because it was never the local person here before that was the one that put the kibosh to the management plan. Do you know who it is now?
It's a man named Armando. I looked it up.
What is it?
Armando Quintero is the park director.
And he is located where?
I guess Sacramento. He'd be he's the head park director of all the state parks.
Well, let's ask him in April then. Huh? Well, then we can put it in our letter that they refuse to come. Yeah?
Well, there is I forget the name of it, it's the Eureka person, that's the North Coast Region
Right,
Director for
right.
State Parks. I don't know who it is, I know who it used to be, but that's public information, that should be easy to find. I actually called him about the beach closure, he wasn't very friendly.
I think if we start at the top and they say, okay, well, I suggest you ask this person, and they go down the line. And, you know, I used to always say it's not like being in a used car lot and having the salesman come out and tell the buyer what they think they want to hear, then go back and talk to the head guy and they say no. So whoever comes to talk to us should have the authority to say what can and can't be done. Otherwise, it's a waste of everyone's time.
So in the March meeting, we're gonna talk to Sean Freeze and the park director about the Lake Earl management plan? Land management plan? And
The
then
state doesn't, Parks doesn't have anything to do with the Lake Earl Land Management Plan.
but you just said that it comes underneath that, right,
It,
Helen?
it comes under the Department of Resource, yes, it does. But the Fish and Game Department is the one that does the management plan.
but within the state parks lands out there, there is no
I don't know. They've shied away from it all the time. I've never heard of any
Well, when I
plan.
worked there, I'd go out there and I'd do whatever, scratch broom, move that, you know, or all kinds of stuff. Just go out there and make things better, you know. And now I don't know.
It's out of control.
Red tape, you know, a long time ago. My first day there, I got a list of stuff to do. I went out and did all that stuff, but back at the office at 1 o'clock, and they told me, that was 2 weeks worth of work there you had. So do one thing off your list and go drive around all day.
I think the value of us having both of the agencies ask them for a management plan is like through memorandums of understanding, for example, like on out there off of Kellogg on the ponds. They used to have a memorandum of understanding. That was in the state parks, but it was under the California Fish and Game. Then they elected not to renew the memorandum of understanding. It's the same way on the acreage down at the end of Pella. They obviously had some kind of an agreement in place. And so does their plan now say that they can't do that anymore? Somebody's going to have to step up and say this, because we're just out here and we move and decisions are made as the wind changes.
Is there a way to get a copy of the current management plan?
Yeah, the county has that. But that's been outdated for over 5 years.
But that's a good starting point.
Yeah,
And then we can say
yeah,
this is terrible,
yeah,
move it. Starting point.
right.
Who's it under and go from there.
I think that would be good to bring everyone up to speed that hasn't walked the walk to this point, to see what it actually says now, kind of going along with what you said.
So how do we as commissioners get that? Do we have to request that from our board of supervisors to review that, or is that,
No, that, in fact, I think you can probably go online and find that.
okay.
Lake Girl Land Management Plan under the California Department of Fish and Wildlife. You should be able to find it.
If you can't find it, call me. 2010, older than some of our kids.
Yeah, it's expired though, 10 years, hasn't it?
Well, the one I have was from 2010. I don't know if there's been something since then.
And it could be that long. Mm-hmm.
So then within that, so Jackie, once we would find the name for the state park,
We got it.
oh, okay. So are you,
When
you're
do you
gonna,
guys want him to attend the meeting? Is the next question. And you probably don't want Sean Freeze and him here at the same
Both.
time.
yeah,
Might be a little.
Well, yeah, that was my earlier question. Are we gonna concentrate
April.
on, the California Department of Fish and Wildlife and then go to the park?
I think so.
Okay.
yeah, sounds good.
But if you put in Lake Earl area management plan, land management plan, whatever, it comes up, doesn't it?
Yeah.
It looks like it was originally set July 9, 2001.
But it was for 10 years. So, yeah, it's been expired a little over 10 years then.
So the last one actually developed was 2001. Is that correct?
I think that sounds about right.
That
had
does sound right.
a biologist or whatever.
Yeah. They have this room filled, I remember, and anytime anyone got up to ask a question, it was totally poo-hooed, and it was Karen Kovacs that was the one that held this public meeting for it here.
Should we move on to elections?
Did you guys want Armand, me to try and see if I can get Armand over here in April or first in April?
Yeah.
Okay.
Right, that's, I think, we don't need to vote or anything on that?
I mean, just a question. I mean, we're going all the way to the top with the park. and we're not necessarily going all the way to the top with the Department of Fish and Wildlife?
Oh, I think,
Because Sean Freeze is,
no, I think our letter will go, I think our letter will go to the head of Fish and Wildlife at the state. Sean Freeze can come in here and talk, but he's kind of the used car salesman.
yeah. I just want to be on the same page, you know, I don't necessarily, I've never met this Armando guy. None of us have.
No.
So it's not, I don't know if he's going to attend our little meeting, but we'll probably get, you know, I don't even know if you get Chuck Bonham, who's executive director.
Well, no, we probably won't, but we'll get somebody like, he always sends these little,
It'll get kicked down
yeah,
to one of the lowers. It could even get kicked down to Sean Freeze.
Right.
But if you ask the top and he kicks it back to Sean Freeze, you know exactly where you stand.
Okay.
right, because, I mean, Sean is really nice and answers questions and does a lot, he's a nice individual. But he might not have the authority to say things that we feel is important that we need to hear.
Right. Okay.
Those of you who were at the Smith River meeting, when Sean was there and
Your buddy.
your friend, Ellen, what was his name? His name is, it'll come to me. Sean Freeze never said a word because his supervisor was there and the supervisor handled it completely. I mean, when the supervisor guy asked Sean to say something, he said something, but he never said anything. He never contributed anything unless he was specifically asked by, what the heck was that guy's name?
Sean's boss?
Yeah.
Jeff's daughter.
Jeff's daughter. Lovely fellow.
Me too, I agree.
Wonderful man.
Great public relations.
And I mean, hey, it could get kicked down to Jeff's daughter, and
Well, then we'd really know.
then we don't know anything. We know less than what we know now.
Actually, this has been moaned about having to drive over here.
They won't, literally, they'll zoom, they won't come.
A big storm coming?
They'll zoom. Okay.
Now elections?
So basically.
What are we
Go
electing?
ahead, Jackie.
Yeah, so there's 3 elected positions on the commission, and they're re-elected every January, so we have our chairman, but since we have our vice chairman, he just graduates into chairman position. So we're basically electing, yes, you. So basically, we're electing a vice chairman and a secretary. Secretary doesn't do anything, we're just required to have one. So there was, I think, one secretary that actually took notes when I wasn't here one time. In all actuality, it's just in name. So the vice chairman that gets elected will then, of course, move up to chairman next year. So, and basically, we'd need people put forth.
Would anyone like to do it? Vice chair. He's already, yes. Yeah.
With your fine background.
You don't want me to, I'm a delegate for the state employees.
Yeah.
Secretary.
Right.
Hey, in my first year, I got thrown to the wolves.
You did, because somebody quit right away.
Yeah. Don't give them some, you know, little slack there.
Basically, you followed the agenda, you do pretty good.
No, I'm just teasing you guys, but we were pretty small.
No, sir, I don't. I'd rather do my research. Plus, men do better at this. Oh, is it?
I'm gonna nominate Jimmy again for vice chair. Jimmy.
Third it.
Accept the nomination first.
He's hired.
And then if Rob's not here, then you would chair the meeting.
We could set up a little workshop for you.
It's all right. We work through it all. You gotta vote first, right? Okay. Cool. We need a secretary.
And then, I nominate Joe for secretary. Okay. Do you want that? You absolutely have to
What, who is secretary?
Yes. Or, yeah, because there's no first one.
So I just wanted to make sure, I have that with the report. Of course, everybody got copies that got sent around of the letter that was sent on the Lucy News thing from the Humboldt County folks. And I don't know exactly how we use the Humboldt County, but she's on here.
I wondered that myself. And my name's on it, but I didn't say anything.
That was from, it wasn't just Stackhouse, it was the person who kept on mentioning.
Oh, Jack Rice?
Jack Rice.
Okay, so yeah, I probably forwarded that on.
Yeah.
The reason I brought it up is I wanted to be sure that everybody was aware of the fact that Young County Farm Bureau did
Yeah.
also send a letter,
Right.
and it was not anywhere near as long, et cetera, et cetera. So I'll read it here right quick so you kind of know the way the landowners
Yeah.
generally tell about the situation. Young County Farm Bureau has surveyed hundreds of landowner members here. The consensus is to support the change in the Goose Hunting season date. Proposed to start the first Saturday in October, run until the 15th of December, approximately 77 days. Second half of the season is Phoenix, March 10, and start 30 days prior. Our members also want to be on record, supporting the change to be a trial for 2 years. We're concerned that after spending originally thousands of dollars paving the beach off our pastures, this change in hunting season does not mean more beach back here. The original goal of population of 6,000, now the population has exploded to 250 to 300,000. With no management plan, private landowners are being exploited with almost no resources in return. We generate an elusive goose management plan. Copy of that, I can send it to you, but, you know, that, the key is that the landowners are not wanting Humboldt County goose back. We got enough here as it is, I think. Now, hey, owners might want more. Hey, there's one left, so it's a never-ending problem. But change the season, the landowners are very important. Try to help them.
Yeah.
I don't think that it's going to be a major problem, but nobody knows. The longer season seems to be on the south migration, not so much the north migration. They've already bypassed us. And we've got 30, 40,000, I think, right?
I think so.
There's that many left, I think they blew out of here.
I think one good thing that came out of this stakeholders group is, I think going back 20 years ago when we asked Humboldt County to join with us with our problem up here, You know, it was the old thing I said before, not in my backyard. And now they're kind of seeing what the hardships are by having that many there. And I do think that a stakeholders group working with this Jack Rice is a good thing, composed of Humboldt and Del Norte. And they're also going to work on the elk management plan. And Justin Mora is our Del Norte County rep from the Humboldt Del Norte Cattlemen's Association. And I asked Jack the other day, well, if he's kind of the nucleus for working with these stakeholder groups, you know, how is he getting compensated and so forth? But every time you sell any kind of cattle, there is a fee. I forget what it is. It's $1 or $3 a head or something like that. And some of that money goes to help people like Jack represent us and address our concerns. And so I think that's two big issues we have here in our county with the elk and the potential of the goose problem coming back. So I think it'll be a good thing to be connected with Humboldt County. Yeah. Did you guys fill all your tags, Rob? No?
We had a senior hunter in the middle, it did not, and I talked with Dad several times about coming back, because he couldn't come back, and they had kind of planned on coming back after Christmas, but they did not.
Yeah.
If they would come back, they could have done it.
Right. I don't know if Billy got all his filled or not. We've got ours filled except for one cow, and that was because they had an emergency back at a power plant, and they had to leave after one day. And they tried to come back, and just wrong place, wrong time. But days after they left, there was herds of them standing there.
Was there still hunts going on this week?
No,
This-
the
no.
31st was the end.
Okay. Well, I just seen that bachelor herd moving pretty quick, and it looked like they were getting hunted, and they weren't
Yeah,
right by Tryon's corner, right by my house.
yeah. I think one time we got into that herd, and then there's another big herd at Elk Valley. And like the other day out in our field, there was like 22 bulls laying there after season. But, you know, we did get 3 or 4 or 5 of those over there.
With all the hoof rock pulling, have you, what's the population of the one on Alexander? Pretty small now, or?
It's way down.
It's smaller, but, you
I
know, I was
counted
actually surprised
189.
at how many bachelors were in that herd. I mean, there
yeah.
was at least,
Counted 189
at
in
least
that place the
30.
other day.
yeah, and
No,
a good thing that I observed is none of them were limping.
to the park. Yeah.
I mean, out of that group. Because I always check to see, and none of them were,
We
so.
filled all our tags the first or second day. I mean, just,
Last year, 40, I
there's a lot
think,
more in
44
Elk
or
Valley
something.
than people think there are.
Yeah, I was gonna ask that because I seen, the department's, rig running around this morning. Oh. Was Carrington up here? She's been a part of all that, Colleen. No, but did they, so they actually shot it, or they euthanized it? Oh, they were just observing it. They actually didn't dispatch it.
Survey.
Yeah, yeah, that's what I observed too. It was two staffers, because it wasn't Carrington in that car. But no. No, it was
No.
over way more than a week. It started, I think, it's over several months. Yeah. And then they wanted it to be done before the calves got more mature. Because every single one of those cows are pregnant.
So we got 40 in addition to the 32 years.
Yeah. And then that's not counting the other elk, not just here either, because there was elk taken out of Oric Way and then Blue Lake also. Big Lagoon. Well, and the culling.
They never filled their tag. They never filled their tags at Oric. I don't see how. They were in there by Lois Burns' place with all those Himalayan berries. Yeah, but there's massive herds of them. You could spit, man.
I don't have anything to report on.
Drop one right on State Park's doorstep.
See a lot of work. Over that brigade.
Yeah.
A lot of it.
The next meeting is February 13th. And I would like someone to motion.
I'll make a motion to end this meeting at 6:35.
Could I get a second?
I'll second for closing.